Good job.
Welcome everyone to the special called meeting for the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners, December 3rd, 2025. I'm going to open with an invocation, and we'll have the pledge to the flag by Commissioner Mobley. So if you'll all stand. Dear Heavenly Father, we just pray that you'll give us the guidance tonight to do what's in the best interest of the county, Lord. Please protect everyone that's here, coming and going, Lord. And we send a special prayer out for the Perkins family in their time of grief. Be with us all now, Lord, and we say all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number one on the agenda is only item on the agenda is to review the findings of audits from Cherry Beckert Advisory LLC with possible board action terminating Suwannee County Agreement 2018-11 and forwarding audit findings to various state lawmakers and agencies. I'll turn it over to the county attorney for an overview.
Mr. Chairman, you want to state where Commissioner Hale's at?
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Hale stuck behind the train, so he's on his way, so we just decided to go ahead and get started. Hopefully he'll be here by the time we need to do anything. So just wanted you to know. Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What brought us here today, and just for the benefit of the public to give a little bit of context, back in April of this year, on April 15th, 2025, during a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, Deputy Chris Voles, who is the then acting head of the Suwannee County Emergency Management Agency, came before the board and made particular allegations regarding the conduct of the EOC, and in particular also regarding to county management. Regarding to what Mr. Voles said, I'm reading here from Suwannee County Resolution 2025-21, which that together with the minutes of the meeting are the only record we have because the recording that day was not working. So just reading as to what the allegations were to provide the context which begat the audit we're here to discuss. It says that whereas at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of County Commissioners on April 15th, 2025, Deputy Voles appeared before the Commission as the head of the Suwannee County Emergency Management Agency, and whereas during the meeting, Deputy Voles informed the Board that at least $7 million of available grant funds have been irrevocably lost or forfeit due to failure to timely or properly apply for said funds, and whereas prior to Deputy Voles informing the Board of the lost $7 million of available grant funds, the members of the Board had no knowledge of the funds or any issues surrounding procurement of said funds. And whereas Deputy Voles further informed the Board that he was pursuing tens of millions of dollars worth of additional grant funds for projects that were theretofore unknown to the members of the Board. And whereas Deputy Voles further informed the Board that pursued projects were in jeopardy of failing to obtain grant funding, and whereas Deputy Voles accused County Administrator Greg Scott of being the person responsible for the lost grant monies and currently jeopardized grant monies. Administrator Scott's alleged fault was due to his failure to provide aid to Deputy Voles upon request and giving the Board, quote, misinformation, end quote, or lying to the Board. Whereas Deputy Voles alleged that County Administrator Scott had been intentionally sabotaging Deputy Voles' efforts for at least 17 months. Based upon those allegations, at a special called meeting on approximately a week later on April 22nd, 2025, the Board took action and appointed Cherry Beckert as an auditing agency to go into the validity of Deputy Voles' allegations and to determine the current operational status of the Emergency Operations Center. And the reason for the county's involvement with the Emergency Operations Center is because by statute, emergency operations or emergency management is specifically a function of the county, which had been delegated to the sheriff by contract back in 2018. And also pursuant to that, I was appointed by the board as the liaison between the board and Cherry Beckert. So last week, we finally got those audit results in. The resulting document is of 2 different audits, one for grant management within the Emergency Operations Center or Suwannee County Emergency Management. The second is regards to financial findings regarding the EOC and some overlapping issues with the Suwannee County Sheriff's Office. Because the resulting document is in excess of 100 pages, the chairman and I sat down to interview the folks at Cherry Beckert earlier this week to provide an overview of what the findings of the audit were. So, Carissa, if you could go ahead and cue up the video. This was, and just so everybody's aware, this was spread over 2 days because we ran out of time on the first day. So it'll switch from one video to another. And for those with kids who have to go to the bathroom, it's going to be about 45 minutes. All right. Thank you all for coming. This is, I'm Adam Morrison. I'm the county attorney. As you can see here on the screen with me, I've also got Franklin White, our chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm also sitting in here with Carissa Setzer. We're out at the Economic Development Office, and I appreciate you guys from Cherry Beckert using this opportunity to explain to us these audits that you've performed on behalf of the county. So before we get into the audits generally, Denise, if I could ask you, what is it that qualifies Cherry Beckert to do audits such as this?
Sure. Thanks, Adam. So Cherry Beckert has provided audit, tax, and advisory services for over 75 years. We rank among the top 20 U.S. audit and advisory firms in the nation, and we have a team that's dedicated to the government public sector. Our team, which was handpicked for this engagement, includes a certified financial examiner, which is issued by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, CPAs, as well as certified government financial managers, in addition to a certified grants management specialist. And we also have a former assistant county administrator and former assistant city manager who had oversight of emergency management in those roles. Combined, our team has over 120 years of relevant experience. I am now going to hand it over to Paul Wolkers, who is going to provide an overview of our observations and recommendations. Paul?
Thank you, Denise. I'm going to just kind of get some high-level observations that are, inclusive. There were the 2 different projects. They're related, but 2 different projects. One related to looking at EOC spending, the other looking at grants, grants management, grants that were received and how they were used, as well as the application grants that were applied for and that were also not applied for. But first, in terms of emergency management, obviously in Florida, that's a critical responsibility for any county. Counties approach things differently. Larger counties may have standalone emergency management departments or divisions. Smaller counties often lack resources and have to be creative to maximize the organizational impact of the staff they've got and the resources they've got to be able to have the biggest impact on emergency management. Those that don't have standalone, they'll either locate their emergency management and fire rescue and also sometimes law enforcement as well. Basically, different models, can all yield effective results. It's a matter of how counties prioritize emergency management and establishing that sound infrastructure and that culture of collaboration, coordination, aligning efforts, and that's what really allows them to be most effective. So in terms of Suwannee County, obviously, you've got the county has delegated that emergency management responsibility to the sheriff. One of our overall observations is taking a look at the agreements. Although they can be specific in some areas, we believe the agreements are really lacking adequate details in key areas such as budget, finances, grants management, personnel, operations, and reporting, and are really not clearly identifying an expected level of service, and that can impact ways to be able to accountability, ways to be able to kind of monitor and understand how that function is performing relative to expectation. And so if the county continues to delegate that function, we would encourage the county to revisit that agreement, and that agreement should be, again, much more robust than it currently is. We also made the observation that the county's purchasing policy was relatively recently updated, and that as part of that, a code of ethics was added. We think that's a great idea and certainly applaud the county for doing that. We do think the county has an opportunity to really look at a code of ethics even more broadly beyond just purchasing. And that really can be important across the organization. And many public and private sector organizations have code of ethics. And then employees to be able to train employees, new employees coming on board, as well as existing employees, giving them the basis for understanding the expectations in terms of their ethical behavior, and even training that can help employees to work through ethical dilemmas. So we would encourage the county to think about that. And many organizations, including Cherry Bekaert, also have an annual task for employees where they have to basically acknowledge that they have read and understand and will comply with those policies and those codes. And so we think it's critical that the top elected and appointed officials in Suwannee County, if you do this, it's an opportunity for those top officials to share their commitment and set strong examples for the organization. Also, an observation is really looking at the county administrator's role in emergency management. In many counties, the county administrator really has a key role where, the emergency management oftentimes can be a department that reports to the county administrator, or can be within, say, fire rescue or a police department that reports to a county administrator. But even where it may be delegated, in this case, to another constitutional officer, the county administrator still has a very important, critical role to helping to assure the success of overall county emergency management. And so we just wanted to think it's important to highlight that. And that ties into then overall emergency management planning, coordination, and communication. There's certainly a strong opportunity for the county to do better in this. Emergency management is a year-round responsibility to mitigate county vulnerabilities while planning, preparing for future emergencies. And right now, things are a bit siloed and fragmented, and there's really an opportunity to improve that, how we're organized, as well as how we're planning and coordinating for emergency management. And that ties into training as well. If the county hasn't done so, the county should look closely at the training requirements and following FEMA and state of Florida requirements, and making sure that all appropriate staff have received appropriate training, and if not, to address any deficiencies in the training program. The county has a comprehensive emergency plan update on the county website. The last plan posted was August 12th of 2019. Oftentimes these plans are developed, but they may or may not be updated as regularly as they could or should be, and really trained on, such that staff can really are knowledgeable in and out of the plans and are really actively using them and following them. If the county is in the need for an update, we suggest that there could be the opportunity to utilize grant funds to secure outside expertise to help the county in updating the plan, since you do have staff resource constraints that can be time-consuming. And if you got outside expertise, that can help move that along. Local mitigation strategy. You have a local mitigation working group in the county, and that should be inclusive of all actors: the county, municipalities, key nonprofit organizations, but there is not, that we've seen, a comprehensive hazard mitigation plan. So we think this is a large opportunity for the county, is to really be able to build that plan, because to the degree that you have an effective working group, an effective mitigation strategy, and have really developed a robust list of projects that fit within that local hazard mitigation plan, and start to advance those projects in terms of planning for them, in terms of engineering for the projects, you position the county to be able to then compete well to be able to get dollars to fund those projects and get those completed, which helps protect the county in terms of future disasters. In terms of grants management, this is often a finding that we see in other local governments. Many still rely on Excel spreadsheets to manage grants, and as a county gets more and more grants, and they can get rather complex, there is good grants management software that's available. We would encourage the county to look at that, and that's something that's not just specific to emergency management. That could be utilized across the county organization to whether for any type of grant that the county receives, and that can cover everywhere from looking at grants to applying for grants to managing compliance for grants and eventually closing out grants. Emergency management financial oversight. This is a critical area and one that we believe is deficient and that it's important for the county to address. Right now, it looks like in terms of that management oversight, it's really coming from the finance department within the sheriff's office. We didn't see that the county finance department and/or clerk of court are playing a significant role in terms of at least what we've seen relative to the work that we've done. And it does appear that also this setup doesn't appear to be compliant with the county's comprehensive emergency management plan. That does state within the plan that financial management during a disaster is the responsibility of the Suwannee County Clerk of Court. So we would encourage the county to look at that as part of any plan update, to address that. And we suggested there should be some broader roles and responsibilities be outside the sheriff's office to help with that financial oversight. And that with that delegation of emergency management responsibility to the sheriff and building a more robust agreement, we think that could be an appropriate component of the agreement is to tie in that financial oversight and also potentially require the sheriff's office to comply with the county's purchasing policy relative to EOC expenditures. Also wanted to address annual emergency update to the county commission. Don't know whether this is being done or not, but if not, we think it's a great opportunity. Other counties often do this, but in the springtime, as counties are heading towards hurricane season, it's a good opportunity to provide an annual update to the county commission on the status of the emergency management function and operations and plans. And it's a great way to also alert the community, make sure folks are getting ready and prepared for the upcoming hurricane season. Lastly, just wanted to highlight what we kind of see as a one county team effort, and this gets again to operations appear to be siloed and fragmented, which creates barriers to cooperation, communication, and coordination. And we think much can be done. You've got 2 emergency management staff right now. That's probably not adequate, but from what we've seen, there could be opportunities to help better utilize staff across the organization to scale up to meet needs during an activation or even other emergency management needs, and then certainly scale down as needed as well. And with that, I'll turn it back to Denise.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Paul. I thought, Kat, now if you could discuss the scope and approach and the results of the grants review, that would be much appreciated.
Certainly. So my name is Kathleen Kizier. I am an advisory manager with Cherry Beckert. I am a certified grants management specialist as well, with several years of grants management experience. I prepared the grant administration analysis and interagency dynamics report. And what I was tasked to do was look at some specific objectives, specific things that happened between the dates of August 15th, 2023 and April 30th, 2025. And find what actually happened with these particular objectives. So my tasks solely focused around finding out what grants for emergency management were applied for by EOC and what grants were actually awarded during that period, what federal and state funding was applied for, was not awarded, or was terminated, or was withdrawn. Objective 3 was basically what happened to the $6.8 million in available funding that has been deemed or termed as lost. And is there a disconnect between the county and the EOC when it comes to actual grants management compliance, and especially around the FEMA funding? So if we start here with Objective 1, what grants for emergency management were applied for by the EOC and awarded during this review period. They did have several grants. The first one they had is the FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, federal agency, Emergency Preparedness and Assistance Grant, which goes by EMPA. Also, they received the Emergency Management Performance Grant from FEMA as well. These are grants that are received every year by the EOC, for emergency management. They come from FEMA, they flow down into the Florida Department of Emergency Management, and they disperse these funds. They determine how much of this money goes to each county. On top of that, the other...
Can I ask you a question
Yes.
about that? The EMPA and EMPG grants, are those something that's specially awarded every year, or is that done as a matter of routine from FEMA to emergency management departments throughout the state?
It's a matter of routine. So this is basically the funding that EOC uses to pay expenses, paid salary. It's actually distinguished for planning for emergency preparedness, planning for emergencies, mitigation and such, which is part of the emergency management's actual description of what they do. So these funds every year will flow through, again, amount determined, dependent on what Florida Department of Emergency Management determines, and these funds flow through every year. So in a period of time that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Whether there's a storm or not, emergency
Yes.
management's going to get these funds.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So those are the reoccurring funds that they get every year. So when it comes to actual disaster funds after disaster, FEMA, again, also has specific grants that they will award or allocate based on the storm, what type of storm it is, how much damage they determine there is, and such. These are called hazard mitigation grant programs, and it's called HMGP, and you'll see these anytime there's an emergency and FEMA comes and says, okay, we're going to say you have an X amount of money and we're going to allocate this to you, but you have to show to us that you can spend it within our requirements. So in this time period, the FEMA HMPG funding, there were two. There was Idalia, and then also there was for Helene and Debbie, which since they were so close together, that funding came together. So those two grants were allocated by FEMA. They went to Florida Department of Emergency Management, and again, it's their responsibility to take those funds and make sure they're used properly and distribute them. So FEMA is your main funder. The next level is Florida Department of Emergency Management. They're going to take that funding and spread it out where it needs to go.
I want to make sure I understand this. So when you use the phrase allocated to Suwannee County, am I correct if I understand this? If we had grant projects that met the qualifications required by FDEM, there was $25 million earmarked for Suwannee County that Suwannee County would have been able to use. Is that correct?
For Idalia, there was $13 million that was allocated. So they said, we think you have about $13 million worth of damage based on applications that were originally put in. That there's many different levels and layers here. It goes to the Florida Department of Emergency Management, and then it is the county's responsibility to provide projects, eligible projects, to the Florida Department of Emergency Management for them to review and deem if they're eligible, and if they will then obligate those funds towards that project. So they're not just going to dump $13 million on you. If you have
I understand that.
Right.
I just want to be clear that if we had otherwise had projects ready to go that met the EM requirements, we could have had $25 million that was otherwise set aside for Suwannee County if we had otherwise complied with grant requirements. Is that correct?
Right. So yes, for Idalia it's $13 million. For Helene and Debbie it was $25 million. So you had both of those pots. Right.
So it's actually more than $25 million.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So you have both of those pots. And then there's a few nuances that we'll talk through. The other pot of money they received, which is a one-time distribution from the state, was for $2.15 million, and that was for expenses from the actual disaster that was not covered by any of that FEMA funding. So if it's not eligible, then you could use that $2.15 million for other things that would not be eligible to be paid for by FEMA. So they also received that kind of money.
That's your uninsured motorist coverage for FEMA disasters, right?
Sure, just one time.
Okay.
And they call it's called a local agency program. Usually it's a transportation type of funding. So this funding is used for roadways, infrastructure, things like that. So FEMA does not cover like fixing your roads, but this would help fix the roads. So that's what this little piece of money is. So it's not going to come every year. It's just this one time when they said, okay, we're going to give you this to help out. And the last piece of funding that came through was from the CARES Act. It was $5,000. That is actually sitting under the county. So EOC is not in charge of and responsible for that funding. And it's used, they've used some of it for architectural and engineering, and some of it is for actual infrastructure for the EOC building.
Okay.
So as of this date, there have been no HMGP, so that Hurricane Mitigation Grant Program funding, that $38 million we were talking about, none of that has been obligated as of today. Part of that because of where they had terminated some programs, which we'll get into. Part of it because they're still holding on to some of that Helene Debbie funding at the FEMA level. Number two, objective number two. What other funding was applied for and not awarded, or what was withdrawn? So basically, two things happened where you could say there was a withdrawal or a termination, or it was denied. First thing is there was a community emergency response team, which is a very small award. It's generally between $5,000 and $10,000, and that was denied this past year and the year before. So I think it was 23 and 24, and again this year they have denied that. So that's a very small amount of funding that was not received. Then we get into what happened with the rest of the FEMA funding, with that HMGP funding. So we said we had two pots of money. So first of all, we had the $13 million from Idalia that was allocated and said, okay, you can get your projects together, get them ready to go, make them FEMA eligible, and then we'll reimburse you. So it's a reimbursement process. They don't just dump $13 million or $6 million or whatever it may be, whatever your project says. You spend it and then they pay you back. And then we had the second pot of money, right? Okay, so what actually happened was EOC, when Idalia came through, EOC had two projects that were ready to go. Those two projects totaled $6.2 million. And they issued the applications to Florida Department of Emergency Management, because remember, it's got to go through them for it to be approved, because they're the ones that say everything's good to go. They went ahead and applied for those, and then after that point, there were a bunch of questions. So there's this thing called RFIs, request for information, and they ask, okay, show us where you pulled these numbers from. Show us where how is this eligible in this particular area? So they'll go in and they'll ask you this. EOC was not able to provide the answers for those. About that same time, I'm sorry,
right.
Did you have a question? Okay.
No, please continue, I'm sorry.
Right. So basically, that $6.2 million got pulled back out of the $13 million possible pot for various reasons. The EOC made the decision, and they pulled it out. It has to do with where Paul talked about capacity. Paul talked about, being able to have the projects to actually, make sure that they're ready to go and eligible. So there's a lot of those reasons.
Well, can I ask you that? Let me stop you there and just ask
Sure.
a very specific question. And to a certain extent, this is going to skip to objective number 3, but we can integrate.
Certainly, yeah.
So what begat this audit was the emergency management director coming to a board meeting and directly accusing county administration of refusing to work with emergency management. And then because of that, millions and millions of dollars of grant funding is irrevocably lost. Did you find anything to support that allegation in your looking into this?
So that's it's very nuanced how you actually view what actually happened here. There were 3 possible scenarios. I'll just walk through them real quick. So we have 13 million and we have 25 million. To summarize what happened, we had the $13 million allocated by FEMA, and then we had 2 projects. Our EOC had 2 projects worth $6.2 million that they went ahead and applied for, but then they had to withdraw that. At the same time this was happening, Debbie and Helene hit. So the same paperwork, basically, kind of at different levels, but paperwork that was due for all the projects from Idalia they also had to work on all of the projects and all the paperwork for the other hurricanes as well. So their reasoning was, we're going to go ahead and withdraw these 2 applications because we got $25 million over here. We're not ready. We don't have the projects. We can't support anything to get any of this Idalia funding at this point. So we're going to pull it out, and we're going to put these projects in with the Debbie and Helene funding because we have plenty of funding over here. It's $25 million. It'll cover everything we have. Okay.
Did you find any evidence that that was communicated to the county commission to let them know about how this was being handled at the time?
No. My understanding from talking to the county and from what I saw was that they did not know this was happening.
All right. You said that there were issues with RFIs or requests for information. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
They had a consultant they were working with at that time that was helping out with the FEMA funding. It's a very strenuous, long, difficult process. There are emails that I observed where they were asked, the consultants were asking, can you give me this information? We need this information to turn these RFI ins. There was always a series of reasons why it couldn't happen. Somebody was sick, somebody was on vacation. So by the time they got to the 4th request, the consultant said, we can't do it now, it's too late. So that was...
One of the other things that was brought up at that initial meeting, which begat the Cherry Becker audit, again, was the then then emergency management director saying that, and I'm paraphrasing, emergency management had been begging the county to aid them in this process because they were so understaffed, and in fairness, because they had been hit by 3 hurricanes in 13 months. Did you find any evidence to support or, excuse me, that version of what occurred?
Found no evidence to support that version.
Did you ask for any?
I did. I have 5 specific categories of documentation I was looking for. One of those categories was provide any kind of email, video recordings, any place where you asked for additional staff and said you needed help.
So when you're sitting here saying that projects were getting canceled because of an inability to meet deadlines, were there any contemporaneous emails or communication that you were able to find from emergency management personnel to the county saying, hey, we're really under the gun here, we could use a whole lot of help with these things because we can't meet these deadlines? Was there anything like that you were able to find?
I was not provided any evidence to show that.
All right, please continue. I'm sorry for stopping you.
No problem. So where we end up here with objective 3, what happened to the round to 7 million, we go 6.8 million, where what is left from that 13 million, because we know we had the $6.2 million in projects for Idalia. We put them into that $25 million pot, those projects for Helene and Debbie. So what about the rest of that pot, that $6.8 million from Idalia? What happened to that? They don't reallocate it. So what's going on with that? So you have to think about it in multiple ways, and it's a terminology thing. So it's how do you think about what the word loss means, and how do you determine what loss actually is? So scenario one is that there was $13 million in Idalia funding, and it was designated to be used, but it was not applied for. None of them was applied for, right? And it couldn't be approved and the funds couldn't be obligated. So the EOC didn't apply for $6.8 million of that period, and the other 6.2 went on and was adopted or wrapped into the other grant. So if the county, think about it, if the county had a more robust hazard mitigation program, let's say, and they had over 13 million in shovel-ready projects, could the county have received that full designated amount, that $13 million, to spend on all their projects? So what's the outcome of that? The $13 million of potential funding could have been obligated, and it could have been awarded if EOC was able to provide the timely project application. So if you think about it that way, then $13 million that was actually designated specifically to Idalia is lost. Can't use it, can't get it back, right? So let's look at scenario two. So EOC could not provide those FEMA eligible projects. So there was $13 million again in the Idalia funding to be obligated. So what happened? EOC lacked those projects for at least $6.8 million, and those funds were not obtainable, period. But even though the other $6.2 million were eligible and applications were withdrawn, they were still covered. So, how do you consider that lost? So what would have happened for hurricanes Debbie and Helene? Did they lose $6.8 or $6.2 million that you could have used because you put those other projects over and moved them over? So did we actually just lose $6.8 million? I'm sorry, 6.2. So we moved those $6.2 million projects over. Did we actually lose the $6.2 million that could have been used for other projects as well with Hurricane Debbie and Helene? So by moving that funding, that $6.2 million is really lost for other disaster projects. So you can think about it that way as well. So scenario three. So all our eligible Idalia projects that we had were wrapped into the Debbie and Helene funding. Okay. But since this funding really wasn't ever received and the eligible projects were covered elsewhere with Debbie and Helene, EOC really didn't need that funding for those projects. They didn't lose it. So again, can we say the county was kept whole for that $6.2 million that may have been previously approved? Did the county receive fair funding for Hurricane Debbie and Helene, where the application estimates were the $6.2 million? So in effect, no funding was really lost because all the Idalia projects were wrapped all into the other designated funding, and it appears that the $25 million is sufficient. We have eligible projects for that. So technically, we didn't really lose any funding. So those are the three ways you can look at it. So it all depends on how you view that loss, on what the actual dollar amount is that was lost to the county.
All right, so when Mr. Bowles said that the $6 million or the $4 million, I don't recall what it was irrevocably lost, what agency was it that made the decision to move that money so it was no longer money for Idalia, but instead was Helene and Debbie?
That was EOC. EOC made that decision.
Right. Okay, so if you could keep going then.
Certainly, I'll try to wrap up here. So number four is...
Actually, can I ask you one other question?
Absolutely. Yes.
Just to kind of give the public an idea as to how this works when we talk about a shovel-ready project.
Okay.
I'll use the example here in Live Oak. My office flooded when Debbie hit. So did all of downtown Live Oak. It's a known issue that flooding occurs in downtown Live Oak when disasters strike and there's hurricanes. Could funding have been made available to fix, after Debbie, to fix this type of issue in Live Oak or Suwannee County had work been done ahead of time to make it an air quotes shovel-ready project?
Absolutely.
Is that the sort of project that they're looking at doing?
Those are the kind of projects they looked at.
To do.
Remediation and mitigation.
So to be clear then, in the future, however EOC looks like, it would be imperative to make sure that there are projects ready to go when and if the disaster strikes to minimize or mitigate the need for a whole lot of RFIs that may or may not be complied with by other agencies.
Yes, just exactly as Paul talked about in the intro. That would be the optimum solution for making sure that you are ready to go when something happens like this.
Okay. So I'm sorry, please continue.
Sure. So number 4, basically, the objective is, is there a disconnect? Is there an issue? Yes, there's obviously a disconnect, an issue. You saw in here that there are things that happened that were not told to the county, discussed with the county. Now, granted, EOC does have full responsibility for making these decisions and making sure things work based on their contract, making sure things are compliant. But the communication lacks greatly. The other problem that I found here is the terminology. When you're trying to explain these things, grants management terminology is not regular everyday terminology, and it's not something everyone understands. It's just like accounting. Something I say for an accounting project could mean something totally different. One of the things I saw when I was looking at some of the tapes and some of the videos is that there was a lot of terminology issues, which ties in again with what Paul was talking about with training, making sure people understand what they're looking at in the grants management themselves. But there was a lack of communication, there was a lack of transparency, there is definitely mistrust on both sides. Both staff expressed frustration over, most lack of collaboration on the EOC side had a lot to do with getting these projects ready, where they could not get the folks to collaborate with them to get these actual projects ready timely. There's a lot of work. It's a collaboration between city of Live Oak, Bradenton, is that right?
Branford.
Bradford, the county commissioner. Branford, and the county commissioners and EOC. So there was a lack of communication there. There was a lack of coordination between all of these different areas and being able to do things, and which is supported in evidence in emails and documentation that I reviewed. So basically we have...
Oh, yeah. Did you see anywhere in what you were looking at that, because here's what I see when I read the report itself, was a lot of issues relating to lack of bandwidth, lack of staff, lack of ability to do all this, especially in the context, again, to be fair, 3 hurricanes hitting in 13 months.
Right. Yes.
Am I hitting the nail on the head there?
Very much so. And even though I do not have any physical evidence that actually is saying we need more people, just the way Paul had stated it before, 2 people to do all of this work would be very difficult. They did have a consultant that worked with them as well, though, just through that particular part of the project. So, yes, there is definitely a capacity issue, especially during times like this when the FEMA process is, like I said, so drawn out and compliance driven. Having 2 people trying to do everything that needs to be done from level A to level Z would be a difficult task.
Adam, if I could add to that too, because I think that's again the kind of the key point in terms of you could say, well, we need more than 2 people, so hire new positions. But I think with most organizations, you look and see, well, what capabilities, what expertise do we have in the organization that can support the needs? This is emergency management. We need kind of all hands on deck. Where's the capability across the organization to support the needs? So you kind of ramp up and ramp down with the resources you got in the organization.
Chairman, why you were asking a question?
Yeah, isn't there outside not agencies, but outside organizations that would help with that? You're saying we're understaffed. If we were in the case of where we had this money available to us and the EOC was overwhelmed, couldn't we have gone outside for a grant writer or grant administrator on a percentage basis to handle that for us?
And you have that. So you have someone who works for you and EOC that is your grants writer. And to my knowledge, from what I was told, you do have a grants writer and they do have access to that person. And it's not a grant writer in this case that you need. You need someone to help coordinate projects, coordinate with Florida Department of Emergency Management, with Federal Emergency Management Agency. You need coordinators because of the amount of paperwork, amount of compliance to go with these actual type of projects. They had both. I know they said they did use that consultant. They didn't keep the consultant, the one that was helping them, the one was
Can I stop you there? Let me ask you about
helping
that.
them collaborate and get everything together to get to the Florida Department of Emergency Management.
Like on page 30 of your report, you list about departmental engagement, and you talk about an email from Chris to Cindy Lou regarding requests for information. Who was Cindy Lou?
Let me find.
Yeah, sorry to...
That's okay. There's various people at different agencies, so I want to make sure I got the right person. Which page is it again?
Page 30. Then you talk about requests for information. And there was a series of email exchanges between Mr. Bowles and...
Yes.
Regarding requests for information.
Email between. There's a lot of them in here. Sorry. Cindy, you said?
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to figure out how these requests for information were being handled, because...
Let me look down. Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let me look down in the. I have more details in the appendix. Let me look in there. That should tell me who everybody is.
Yeah, if this is a rabbit hole, we can move on because I know we've got limited time.
Okay. Yes. So Cindy was. Cindy was one of the consultants.
So this was somebody EOC hired?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have that consulting agency, but not off the top of my head, but I do know the name. I can find it for you if you need that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, this email right here, they went back and forth, and they kept pushing the deadline and pushing the deadline and pushing the deadline. And they had, like I said, many different reasons why they couldn't respond or didn't have answers.
Okay.
But yeah,
Is there any...
if you look in the appendix on page, I think 67, that'll give you more of a whole look at what happened in that email stream.
Understood. All right, I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, that's fine. That's okay. I gotta go back to where I was. Hold on. Okay, so we talked about communication. So basically, fragmented grants administration. This is stuff Paul has already hit on, so I won't go deep into it unless you have questions. The lack of disaster-related strategic planning, and this is all determined from interviews and supporting documents. So interviews with the EOC and all of their folks, interview with Chris Bowles, interview with the county folks as well. A lot of communication failures. I think one of the major things is that There is no communication plan, and the communication is totally broke down between the department and the county. Oversight and accountability. EOC has no oversight on any of this. There's no accountability except to themselves, because they have the whole sole responsibility of making sure these things get done, and that's a compliance issue right there. And then the staffing constraints, as we talked about. This is the main thing as far as remediation for this. Look at those contracts that you guys have in place right now between EOC and the county. Read those terms. Look at what you have. It definitely creates a barrier, as Paul said again, between the county and EOC. No oversight, no accountability otherwise except for under EOC. You need to look at those agreements and see if there's a better way. Should the county make sure that they are working together as a team instead of individually? Who has oversight to make sure things are compliant, and who's responsible for certain aspects of this? Again, create a communication plan. What's the line? I have a question. I'm an EOC about a grant. Who am I going to ask about this thing? How do I do this? What's the action? Where do I go next? What's the next step for things? And put together a plan so you know who you're talking to and what the next step and processes are. Because right now you guys don't have any of that. We talked about hazard mitigation, and we'll go over that. Maybe looking at some kind of grants oversight committee that you guys can form from folks you already have that can help with the compliance and make sure things stay on task, and that everyone knows there's communication, everyone knows what's happening. Make sure you have formal grant policies, talked about staff training, and definitely leverage that external expertise that you guys have. Whether, it's consultants, whoever you have there, your grant manager, not your grant manager, your grant writer that you guys have on staff, your grants person there, leverage them and use them as well. So that's basically what we came up with. A lot of inefficiencies, a lot of constraints, a lot of governance weaknesses, internal control weaknesses and such, structural inefficiencies, things that could easily be rectified just by working through and making sure you're getting your internal controls up to date and that your staffing structure keeps you compliant.
I don't want to put words in your and Paul's mouth, so if I am, please correct me if I'm wrong. But when you say we need to revisit the agreement to make sure that the expectations are clear, I mean, what I'm hearing, the way it's working now is a recipe for bad governance in the case of a disaster, and making sure that we are compliant with everything we need to do to maximize the county's ability to recover from disaster with the aid of FEMA funds. Just talking purely from a grants management perspective. Am I stating that correctly?
Is that me or Paul? I'm sorry.
Either one.
Oh, I thought you said Paul. Yeah, I from what I saw, you guys need to look at the wording. You have one office right now that has all of the responsibility, accountability, and power with those grants, and that's the best way to get in trouble, by not having oversight and not knowing what's going on. So my suggestion or my recommendation is you look at those and see if that's really how you want to operate. And like I said again, I don't want to put words in Paul's mouth either. I'll let him speak after me. But do you want to leave it the way it is? Do you want to come and revisit that, redo it, make sure that you guys are working together and communicating so everyone knows what's happening with that money? I mean, that's how you guys sustain, right? Your communities and all. What's actually going on is very important. And without that communication, without that oversight, and without that accountability held against anyone or any department, you're not going to have that. You're not going to maximize. You're not going to be efficient.
And I think, Adam, I would just agree. I agree with your statement. I think you're correct. I think looking at kind of how it transpired, I would say that is really unusual and really not the best way to do things. That really, in terms of grants, the responsibility, typically would kind of flow through a county administrator and up to the board of county commissioners in terms of kind of being aware of and helping to make those determinations.
Thank you. All right,
Thank
where are we
you.
going next?
Do you have any other questions on that report?
I don't. Chairman White, do you have any?
Unfortunately, Jody has to drop for another engagement. Can we reschedule that section of the discussion?
Is anybody available tomorrow?
Yes.
Jody, are you available tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
Jody's.
going to, just for purposes of the board meeting, I'm going to end this meeting now as far as the recording with the expectation of bringing it back so we don't have to have folks in the audience listen to a rescheduling conversation. So hold on one moment. All right, good afternoon. We are back here the following day to continue with our discussions with the good folks at Cherry Bekaert regarding the findings of their audit. We're turning over to now the part of the audit that deals with the finances of the EOC and to a certain extent the Sheriff's Office. So with that, I will turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Adam. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Tiffany McCoy, and I'm a forensic manager with the Government Public Sector Internal Audit Team here at Cherry. And so what I will do is start by providing an overview of our objective scopes and methodology, and then I will turn it over to our other manager, Jody, to provide an overview of the Phase 1 results for this engagement. So as a result of Suwannee County Resolution 2025-21, which resulted from a discussion between EOC grants and the Board of Commissioners, it was requested that Cherry conduct a forensic and grants management audit. And so as a portion of that audit, the forensics piece specifically, we were tasked with reviewing EOC expenditures between the period of August 15th, 2023 and April 30th of 2025. And as we started our financial forensic review, it was determined that the scope of the engagement needed to be expanded due to the emergency funds in the general fund and the commingling of things such as credit cards, which includes both EOC and County Sheriff's Office financials. And so we expanded our scope to include the financials of both of those departments to ensure that we have proper coverage to meet our forensic review objectives. This included reviewing almost 12,000 transactions spanning across about $11.5 million. As we move into looking at our objectives, we had several objectives that we were trying to evaluate between Phase 1 and Phase 2 of this engagement. The first objective was to identify all the funds that were spent during that audit period I noted between August 23 and April of 2025. Then we also were to assess whether those expenses were properly authorized, also to evaluate the appropriateness of those expenditures, and determine if there were any outstanding obligations not previously identified for the EOC, and also verify that the transactions that were reported in the financials, the legitimacy of those. For our methodology, we had several methods of obtaining data. Data was requested, collected, and analyzed via recordings, evidence, resolutions, agreements, interviews with management and process owners to help support our overall evaluation for the potential for fraud, which would, with the consideration for pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. Also, the evaluation of the potential for waste, which would include ineffective or inefficient operations, abuse, internal control deficiencies, any areas of noncompliance, and the potential opportunity to identify opportunities for improvement overall. so that we could make recommendations to the county and the EOC to help strengthen Suwannee County's overall control environment surrounding emergency operations. We have detailed in the report in the appendix a stop and go matrix, which essentially summarizes the tests performed to achieve our audit objectives and the status of those tests at the end of phase one. So what you'll notice—
Can you explain the difference between, what is phase one?
So phase one is an initial review of that population of the 12,000 transactions between the period of August 2023 and April of 2025. So
I'm making sure I understand. Essentially, this is the 30,000 foot overview looking for problem areas. Would that be correct?
Correct, yes.
Were you guys hired to do phase one and phase two, just phase one, or just phase two? What was the scope of your engagement for that?
Phase one and phase two. And so in phase two, to your point, is the initial overview and evaluation of the initial population of data for which we identify. We run several tests, those tests are detailed in our stop and go, and we try to identify anomalies, glaring issues, potential inconsistencies, and then as a result of that testing in phase one, we have made recommendations in that matrix for suggested for specific tests if we are at a place where we feel like we've been able to obtain adequate information to come to a determination. We have noted that as being a stop in the stop and go. And for specific tests where we feel it would behoove you to have additional analysis done in phase two, we've noted those as goals in the matrix.
I think you hinted at it, but so we're clear, what would be the difference between phase one and phase two analysis?
So phase one analysis, we look at the overall population, and there are, specifically because this is a more forensic review of financials, there are initial tests that we would conduct on the entire population of data to just understand the information and transactions more, tests for compliance and things and legitimacy. And then once you've reviewed that entire population of data, we would excerpt out a subset of data or escalate up a subset of transactions we feel it would be important to test and analyze additionally with more detail. So we would go ahead.
All right, so if I understand then what we're looking at here is you guys, what this report is this is the completion of phase one, and if you guys were to go forward with phase two, this is what that stop go would be. Stop meaning phase two isn't necessary to look at this data, but it is perhaps a problem area. Go would mean it merits further consideration if phase two were authorized and paid for. Do I have that understanding correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So please continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, great. Those are good questions. So what I'll actually do now is I will turn it over to Jody so that she can walk us through the stop and go and provide more specific details as it relates to areas where we believe that enough testing was conducted to come to a recommendation. And she'll detail out the specific tests or information where we feel that further testing would be of a value to the county in phase two.
Thank you.
Okay. As Tiffany mentioned, my name is Jody Lewis. I'm an advisory manager, and I helped out on the emergency management expenditures piece. As mentioned before, our team was tasked with reviewing transactions from the period of August 15th, 2023 through April 30th, 2025. We have a very detailed listing of findings in Appendix 1 and 2 of our report, but I will provide an overview of those key findings and additional testing needed here. So for some of the more overarching findings, I guess I'll break it down by the overarching findings and then some of the results of our phase one procedures and then more of the reported transactions. So for our overarching findings, these usually, or not typically, but these in this case address more of the process type of things, such as policies and procedures. So our first item is that there were no formal EOC policies and procedures in place for emergency activation. EOC does follow the incident command system, but there's no separate EOC policies and procedures that the sheriff's office or that the county have for emergency management. The second, yep.
Can I ask you a question about that? So when there's an emergency, by definition, formal controls go away for expenditures. I mean, because it's the nature of an emergency. It says in here that verbal authorization was okay, that sort of thing. Is there a recommendation that you still need to have more checks and balances other than a verbal okays?
Yes. Our overarching recommendation, right, is that they adopt, whether it be the county or the sheriffs where EOC falls in the future, our formal recommendation is that they adopt policies and procedures, including purchasing procedures that are followed in the event of emergency activation, and that would include approval of invoices as well in those cases, like formal written approval or email approval rather than verbal.
Okay. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, no problem. So our second recommendation is pretty similar to that first one, but more related to credit cards. We know that there's no formal credit card policies and procedures in place, including the approval of credit limit increases. And we noted a few instances in which credit limit increases, there was no formal approval of increases. Per discussion with the sheriff's office, those were obtained verbally, but there's no formal documentation of that. The next item would be...
Can I stop you there just a second? Do you know how much the limits were increased?
I cannot say off the top of my head. I believe it was $5,000 or $10,000 per card.
Per card?
And it wasn't across the board. It was certain cards, certain periods where the credit limit was increased.
Thank you.
Our next item is the use of EOC equipment for non-county use. We received a couple reports of equipment being used for non-county use, and our recommendation is that, again, we have policies and procedures around the use of county equipment, especially EOC equipment, and implementation of a code of ethics being adopted and required for employees and elected and appointed officials. The next item, as Tiffany mentioned a little bit, is we noted that funds were commingled between the EOC and the sheriff's office in certain cases. I would say especially in the case of credit cards. Some credit cards were being used for EOC expenditures and sheriff's office expenditures, and it's our recommendation that that is completely separated. I will note that as of, I believe it was May or June of this year, they had closed a couple of those individual credit cards that were being used for multiple purposes and opened an EOC credit card. So I believe they have some remediation on that point already.
Okay.
And then our last kind of more general is more of a recommendation and an opportunity for the ADG system. So this would be an opportunity to use more of the ADG functionality for, it was noted that they're not currently using ADG for approval workflows, so it could be approval of invoices that get routed to the right person for approval, or approval of journal entries that get routed and approved in the system. So it's our recommendation that they look into that functionality and implement some of those things to make things a little bit easier on themselves in that aspect. Okay. So the next thing I'll kind of go into would be more of our testing items in our phase 1 procedures. So as part of phase 1, we did analysis on items including duplicate transactions, duplicate vendors, high volume vendors, allowable costs, and items similar to that. So out of that analysis, we recommended additional transactional level testing in phase 2, including sampling of some of those invoices related to those transactions. Again, related to some of the duplicate transactions that might have come out, or vendors that are high volume, or vendors that ended up being duplicate vendors.
When you say there's negative transactions, what are you referring to there?
What item?
It's item number 7, duplicate transactions.
Yes, so negative transactions could be like credits. So we were analyzing general ledger detail, so could be credits within the ledger.
Understood, like refunds or whatnot.
Yeah, or it could be, revenues are typically credits sometimes, things like that.
Understood, thank you.
Okay, and then the last section would be the reported transactions. So out of the 11 transactions, reports of transactions that were received by our team, 5 of those we determined needed additional.
Can I stop you for 1 second before we move on?
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask about number 11, fictitious vendors. What could be a fictitious vendor? That's number 11 on page 16.
Yes, so for this test, we took a random sample of 25 vendors and investigated. It's a typical test that we run to investigate for possible fictitious vendors. So as part of that, we do a search on the Secretary of State business website, so Florida Secretary of State, and then we also do an online search to search for their business presence as well. So out of the 25 tested, 7 of those vendors did not have a Secretary of State business record, and then of those 7, 2 also did not have an online presence.
And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I want to make sure I understand. The reason that's a high, you have it as risk high and go, is because that could be a methodology of fraud, right? Where somebody creates a fictitious invoice and gets a government agency to pay them based upon a fictitious invoice. Is that correct?
Tiffany, I don't know if you wanted to add, but I can.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, and it's so if true, it could be a criminal act, but we're just trying to determine trying to figure that out, and this is of the 25, 7 have that potential from what just your sample. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else on Appendix 1 before we go to reported transactions?
No, thank you.
So again, for those reported transactions, those 11 reported transactions, 5 of those we determined needed additional research, inquiry, or transactional level testing in our phase 2 testing. And some of those include inquiry with vendors, or obtaining additional invoices if things were routed through the state for approval, and additional research or inquiry on potentially fictitious invoices.
Well, if I could ask you about some of the specific ones, if that's okay.
Yep.
Starting, for example, when you reported transactions, you have as number 1 about the trailers. I know, Commissioner White, you had questions about that, didn't you?
Yes. I was chairman when IDEA came through, and we were getting these trailers, and I was told there were 40 or 41 trailers that were going to be given to the county, not EOC, not the Sheriff's Department, but to the county. And it was my understanding once the storm was over that those trailers would belong to the county? And number one, how many trailers did you find record of? Number two, do we know where the trailers are?
On the sheriff's office books, we found record of 14 of those RV trailers, and we did obtain title of those and the transfer documents transferring them from the state to the sheriff's office. So 14 of those are accounted for, and per discussion with them, those are in their local staging area, so we do know where those are. It was mentioned that an additional 2 were signed over to the fire department as well. Our phase 2 testing also recommends additional research into the remaining 25 or so trailers that were reported in.
So you have no record. So you have no records from the state for the additional 25 trailers, is what you're saying? You
Not
found
at this
no
time.
evidence.
You don't know
That
where
will
they
be covered in our phase 2 testing.
Okay. All right. Then I got here is number 2, the $400,000 spent in 3 months with vendor number 5. Just if you could briefly kind of go over what that was.
Yes. So for that vendor, we were able to obtain a few invoices from the sheriff's office related to that vendor, but it was noted that those invoices went through the state for approval. We had reached out to the state and tried to get those, but as of today, we have not received those additional invoices. And that also was recommended for additional testing in our phase 2 testing as well.
Okay. Going on to number 3, former EM director using vendor number 6 for personal use, school use, etc. And here I kind of want to go through, if that's okay, kind of line by line what's here, because I've gotten questions from several commissioners about it. So here under procedures and findings, it says, we analyzed the GL detail, credit card transaction detail, and vendor listing, and noted no vendors or expenditures to vendor number 6. So my first question to you is, by looking for those things, I'm assuming you guys had done a request for information from the sheriff's office or the EOC, especially since this is the EM director who is guiding this per the reported transaction. You asked for this information in a general sense, and we're not given that information. Am I stating that correctly? That's what that sentence leads me to believe.
Yes, our initial data request requested all general, well, let me correct myself. Once we expanded scope to include the full sheriff's office, due to the commingling of expenditures, our requests at that point requested all GL details related to the sheriff's office.
GL is short for general ledger.
Yes, yep. So that would be, we received all details from their ADG system.
Okay. From that, so you requested all that information, and the information regarding vendor number 6 was not given to you as part of that initial request. Is that right?
Correct. We did request invoices specifically related to this vendor, even though we did not find anything in the general ledger detail. And we were provided some invoices related to the vendor upon further questioning about why those weren't in the general ledger detail. It was noted. Yep.
For just a second. Sorry, kind of going through it. So it says that these expenditures were paid out of a lab grant account that was set up as a QuickBooks general ledger. QuickBooks is not ADG, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Are you aware of any reason why GLs would be set up outside of ADG?
I can't determine why some things would be set up in ADG versus QuickBooks. Preference of the system. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So, all right, and this was set up in January of 2025.
Yes.
And it was the then EM director, Mr. Voles, who was the person who was responsible for spending those funds. Is that right?
Yes, I believe the EOC in general.
That was an EOC ledger.
Yes.
All right, so then can you go on to explain their number 2 about the issues with invoices?
Yes, so from the invoices provided, we were provided 4 invoices and the related check payments. There was one invoice totaling $58,000, and the invoice number was subsequent to a prior invoice, but dated prior to that other invoice. And we also noted that the invoice format of that invoice was different from the other 3 invoices that were received as well, and that the check was paid prior to the invoice date.
And so, yeah, so just looking at your report here, it says the check was dated 2/7/2025. The invoice wasn't issued until July of 2025, so basically a backdated invoice. Am I stating that correctly?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
All right, and that's what led you to believe that this may be a fictitious invoice.
Yes, we tagged that.
Meriting phase 2 testing. I understand you're not making any conclusions.
Yes, we tagged that as potentially being a fictitious invoice, also due to the dates of the invoice and the invoice numbers, as well as the formatting of the invoice being different than the others.
I'm going to ask you a dumb question. The February 7th, 2025 payment, that would be after January 6th, 2025, when the previous economic director, or when the previous finance director from the sheriff's office left. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Okay. If, and I understand you're not making any conclusions, the submission of and payment of a fictitious invoice, and I'm just following up because, frankly, the chairman had asked me, if true, that may be a criminal act. Is that correct?
Tiffany, I'm not sure if you wanted to add, but we do recommend that. We can't conclude on that at this time, but we do recommend that for further research in our phase 2 testing.
And that's why, and why you want to look into it in phase 2. I understand. All right, please continue. I'm sorry.
I think that was the end of like the overview that I have planned, but if you have additional questions on that, that's fine.
Okay.
I do on item 21, page 21, item finding number 5, under the whole pest control thing, it said you obtained screenshots of the transaction history. Why was it just screenshots? Why was it not an official report? Or I'm just curious.
That was what was provided to us with the initial report of this transaction. We received 2 screenshots of the detail from the pest services company.
So the screenshots were from the pest control company itself?
They appeared to be from showing their backlog of the system, showing the transactions in their system of date that pest services were provided and addresses as well.
So did you request from the pest control company an official report on that from their general ledger, or did they not want to provide that? They just wanted to do a screenshot? What was the case behind that?
That would be part of our phase 2 testing as well, the inquiry with the vendor specifically. Those screenshots were just what was provided to us with the report. And for that one, we were unable to find those invoice amounts on those dates or any pest services company within the general ledger detail that we were provided.
Understood. Thank you. All right, I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chairman. All right, I appreciate you all, and we appreciate what you guys have done for the county, and if we need anything else, we will reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I know that went a little long, but I thought, and as we discussed, I thought that it was important to do a breakdown of what the report actually said so as to minimize discussion as to what does the report mean, what doesn't it mean, and to get it straight from the horse's mouth. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield to you for as to that matter.
All right, at this time, I'd like to give the sheriff, you can either, before or after public comments, I just want to give you the option. Did you want to speak now or after the public speaks?
I can speak afterward, case item.
Sir?
He said after.
After? Okay.
If I have some questions,
Okay. We're now going to turn to public comments. I'm just going to let you know we are going to strictly by the 3-minute clock in case everybody in here wants to get up and talk. So we're just, so anybody, I got some comment cards here we'll go through first. You need to get it. Mr. Roundtree.
Yes, sir. Captain Jason Roundtree on behalf of the Live Oak Police Department. I'm statutorily protected address, but for the sake of transparency, 7144 152nd Place, Wellborn, Florida, Live Oak, Florida. Conversation with Chief Davis today, and in his stead, at the sake of a reoccurring sour taste in your mouth for the words that were used, just a recommendation for an experiment dependent upon the decision that this board makes. Several years ago, this idea was born out of a deployment that I had to the state ESF, or EM, for Hurricane Michael. The ESFs, or the emergency support functions, represent the different departments in the emergency management. These different departments represent those different functions in which we respond to emergencies, categorically law enforcement, fire department, EMS, health department, so on. The EM functions best if it functions as a hub to all of those different departments in any given emergency, depending on the emergency, but also not. So the recommendation is this, that dependent, again, Mr. Chairman, at your pleasure, what the board decides to do, you guys have a lot on your hands. Not only are you mostly full-time work or business owners, you're doing this extracurricular. This is management oversight is a full-time position. The recommendation would be thus that a subcommittee, essentially this board manage a subcommittee of directors that meets as a board of directors over the emergency management, specifically from these ESFs. What that would give you is oversight in the areas pertaining to the professional response. You could even do ex officio for private entities like water, power, and sewer. It would give you oversight that's categorically professionally responsive, but also it allows EM to remain under emergency response. There's different professionals in here that would probably agree with me that those most apt to respond are those emergency responders that respond to emergencies on a daily basis. So technically, that's the best area to have your emergency response from. I made no judgment or opinion on the rest of the material at hand because I'm representing the city at this point, but just a recommendation from the police department in the interest of the police department and the city of Live Oak that emergency management be able to apply its emergency response in the best practical way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mike Carson. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Mike Carson. I'm no longer a resident of Suwannee County, but I'm speaking on behalf of the almost 10 years that I was a senior pastor at Downland Park Church of God. And I also want to let you know that I used to work for the Florida Public Service Commission in Tallahassee, and that I did a couple of years in the emergency management system underneath the communications coordinator. And not only that, but working for the Florida Department of Corrections, I understand how lack of communication can take place sometimes. But I just wanted to speak on behalf of the county, our sheriff department, and all those in management, that during emergency situations, difficult things have to be done at very fast pace. Matter of fact, Mr. Land had helped us one time at Dowland Park. So we went through 3 hurricanes at Dowland Park, and Dowland Park Church of God was the second largest point of distribution for Suwannee County. We fed over 37,000 meals in Idalia, and we were the hub and the office for FEMA for Suwannee County in that area. We were not only that, but we were the Red Cross headquarters. We were the United Way headquarters. We were also the North Florida National Guard people that came and helped us. Not only that, but we had all of the trailers for bathrooms and trailers for laundry and wash houses, which were running 24/7. And not only that, but we appreciated all the law enforcement, because we had law enforcement on our facility 24/7, 7 days a week. And you cannot imagine the amount of people that were just hurting at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to wash clothes at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I also saw the lack of communication through FEMA at Washington. I got several calls from Washington, D.C. Asking us and telling us, oh, we're going to go ahead and start removing assistance from the county because everyone has water down there. And I said, hold on. We don't all have water down here. We, inside the Advent Christian, that represents a very small quantity of our district in that area, and they have a water tower. But once you leave that area, you're talking about people who have water wells, and they run off power, and if they don't have power, they don't have water. So there was a lot of miscommunication throughout all agencies, and that happens sometimes. But I just want to talk about a couple of things about the Sheriff Department and the EOC. I was called in many times to the EOC for special meetings and our community of leadership among pastors. And I know I'm running out of time, but I just want to share that every time we needed something, it was put there. And whoever was responsible, and I know the Sheriff Department put us a genie out there. We ran a genie. We ran water to Advent Christian. We ran water to other churches. We ran tarts, we ran all kind of stuff. But I just wanted to say that a county like this is an awesome county, and if you learn to communicate, we can get a lot done. So,
thank you, sir. Next is I don't want to butcher this, Belinda's, is it Zek or Zeku?
Saying my name is Belinda Zek, and I live at 22765 128th Terrace in Live Oak, Florida. I just want to make some comments about emergency management and where we're heading in the future with emergency management. As a resident out there by Dowland Park, Church of God actually frequented that. We got hit really hard out there with those hurricanes, and I know it was so bad that we had to actually leave our house so construction could be done. So emergency management is pretty near and dear to me. One of the things that I want to point out is that I read that entire 110-page document and then put it in AI to make sure that I comprehended it correctly. And I kind of want to point out the fact that all of the things that we're worried about, all of the potential fraud, the potential misuse, that came under a former director that is not here anymore. And that former director has been gone under our new director, Heather. And even before she was director, when Heather came in during Idalia, we started seeing Facebook posts about where to get help, what to do. We started seeing more community engagement. We started seeing more things about what we could do as community members to prepare ourselves, to prepare the rest of the community, to help elderly, all these things. That was not happening before Heather. Heather, yes, she had the unfortunate part of being under Chris, but that doesn't mean she is Chris, and I think she's proven that she's not Chris. While I understand you guys are talking about, from rumor mill, you guys are talking about getting rid of the 2 employees at emergency management and redoing. I will say that as a person, as a senior manager of technology, I've been asked to take various departments. I most recently took part of an infrastructure department on security. When I took that department, the employees weren't fired. Those employees came with the department. I feel like we as a county, especially knowing the distrust that has been talked about by the auditors, knowing the lack of communication, and the fact that we had unprecedented emergencies back to back to back, that we should be giving the 2 employees that are there now the chance to thrive and support them currently in what they're doing, especially since we know that we've seen better things and they're going the right way, and not let them be punished by the person who hired them before. I do want to say that we are a small county. I think that we've already seen that we are understaffed, for sure. I think throwing away trained members of EM would leave us at a very huge disadvantage. So one of my big comments that I'm hoping you guys will hear, and I see that I'm close to out of time, is that the citizens of Suwannee County, myself and the rest of the people in here, we need to know that our elected officials, our county administration, and our emergency management, fire, everyone is working for us, has the best people in place, has everything that they need to support us. And we need to be able to see documented policies, documented procedures, documented SOPs that show how we can evaluate whether emergency management and the county is being handled. I do think that's a missing thing. And I will say just one more thing is that I wanted to say I agree that the emergency management should not be under any one entity. I feel like emergency management should be under the county. It is to support the whole county. That doesn't just mean the sheriff's office. That doesn't just mean fire. It's the entire county. So I would like to see emergency management go under the county and keep its current employees and give them a chance to prove themselves to you, or give them a chance to not, and take it as it may.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the cards I had. Is there anyone else wishing to say anything tonight? Name and address for the record, please.
Tracy Daniels. I live in O'Brien at 8916 226th Street. A couple of quick comments. I did also read the 110 pages largely. About the hurricane mitigation for the future. I understand that one of the pitfalls was that the funding would have to go through all the little FEMA subcategories and be approved, and that, as it was said on the video, you couldn't just get a block grant. I get it. That being said, our district, Commissioner White, I would be willing to volunteer to help assess some of the farms in the area and some of the things that could be needed. Please put me down. Our personal farm sustained over $40,000 of damage and had a great deal of problems. Over 700 acres. That's the first point. The second point is regarding the ESF, Mr. Roundtree. He suggested a subcommittee based on people that already have experience doing those things in the county. So very specifically, my experience, Sheriff St. John and Franklin, in Hurricane Idalia, Suwannee Paws, the organization that I lead, fed over 20,000 families, animals during that time. And as you know, I sent you and I sent Sheriff St. John a text getting permission to disperse food and do things such as that. The University of Florida had called me that morning as a liaison saying, we can't get hold of your county. You need to mobilize, this is Idalia, you need to mobilize your ESF 17. If you look back on our text messages, you will see that that was my request to you. You did what you could, but it was really it never worked. It never came to fruition. There was never someone that said, oh, hello, I am the ESF 17. So to get back to your point, Mr. Roundtree, if that subcommittee were comprised of the different ESFs, I know there's roughly 15 that exist on paper. I don't know how many Suwannee County has, but the different divisions are, for instance, the ESF 17 is the one I'm involved with, which is animal protection, but it also included agricultural animals, farms, water, help, assistance. So it wasn't just dogs and cats that needed a place to go. So my suggestion would be that that subcommittee would be the ESF people. And if one person had 2 ESF duties, emergency support function is the ESF, perhaps that would be a way to go. At least those ESFs could be present on that subcommittee, and maybe additional people, which is your whole point. If you're already involved in that, why not be on the committee? And then the last thing I would say is with regard to the ESF 17 deficiencies we have seen over 3 hurricanes, and I was front and center on that, I would also like to put my name in the pot to serve as a person to give any input. Because I was involved in feeding so many animals and having so many people in crises, and would be glad to serve in that role. That is it.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
So.
Yes, sir.
Looks like I did turn the card.
Did you? Well, the only 3 I had, I don't know where it went to, but you're welcome to speak. Just name and address for the record.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Michael Metter. I live at 15866 145th Place, McAlpin. My wife and I, Marcia, relocated to Suwannee County in 2008 when Caterpillar Electric Power Division decided that I should come to Florida and run the operations here for the state. We joined the volunteers of Suwannee County Emergency Response Team in 2017, and currently I serve as team leader and my wife as team secretary. I also serve as the emergency coordinator for the Suwannee County Amateur Radio Emergency Services Group. Our mission there is to provide emergency communications between the county EOC and the state EOC during an emergency when normal communications have failed. My concern is in reference to what will become of these two organizations, CERT and ARES, under the new structure. There have been literally thousands of valuable community service hours dedicated to the citizens of Suwannee County during emergencies and in participation in community events. We have enjoyed a successful relationship between CERT, ARES, Suwannee County Sheriff's Office, Suwannee County Fire and Rescue, Live Oak Police Department, Live Oak Fire Department, as we have been assisting those organizations in various capacities. My questions would be, will these organizations, CERT and ARES, remain intact? Does the county feel that they are necessary and viable organizations? Will there be a CERT coordinator? That's something that was at one time in place and has been missed. But in general, what will be the fate of ARES and CERT? It's my sincere hope and desire that the decisions that are made will be in the best interest of our community. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Name and address for the record.
Good evening. Wayne Haneker, 11883 93rd Road, Live Oak. I said I wasn't going to speak tonight, but after hearing how much money we lost as a county because of a few people, I'm sickened. And it's time for you to take back EOC, clean it up, and get done what needs to get done. Everybody here has great ideas, but the first step is to take it back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Well, let me get through and see if anybody else wants to speak, and we may allow that. Just depends on how many.
I want to speak, but I want to hear what the sheriff's got to say first.
Mr. Chairman.
Do that?
Board, what do you think?
That's the lawyer.
It's technically your discretion, Mr. Chairman, but this is public comment time.
Mr. Boyd, I'd rather you went ahead and spoke if you was going to speak.
I want to give him an opportunity to speak before I did, but that's okay. Sir?
No, excuse me.
You need to resign. Let me say that first. Let me read this to you and my reasoning why. The former finance director was arrested for credit card fraud. We all know that. I want to read to you the statement, public statement put out by the sheriff's office. And these are quotes. I am deeply disappointed that the trust placed in any member of the office was violated, Sheriff St. John has said in the release. The public expects honesty, integrity from every employee of the Suwannee County Sheriff's Office, and I expect nothing less. We acted immediately, turned the matter over to an independent law enforcement agency for investigation, and cooperated fully throughout their investigation. I hold all employees accountable for their actions. I will always take swift and appropriate steps when that trust is broken. We have also implemented internal safeguards to strengthen our financial oversight and ensure that something like this does not happen again. The people of Suwannee County deserve to know that their sheriff's office will always do what is right when it is difficult. He has failed at that. If he's going to require it from his employees, if he's a leader, the leader leads. He has failed. He has demonstrated his incompetence. He cannot manage people. He let Mr. Bowles, at his direction, when that chairman was absent, the county administrator was absent, but he sent Chris Bowles up and let Chris Bowles rant and rave. He never got up to address him or stop him. He did not speak at that meeting until I turned around and asked him to grow a pair and get up here and talk for yourself. He finally did. And then y'all decided to have the audit. And I thank you for it.
Thank you, sir.
Moses Klepper, 14581 102nd Path, Live Oak. I appreciate y'all doing that video. That was very informative and explain. Y'all asked some good questions. That was very helpful. I want to recall, I wish I knew exactly what year it was, but there was one point only a few years ago, the board was considering taking back the EOC. The sheriff and the chief deputy got up here and fought, over and over, they back and forth to keep that. And me and many questioned why they were doing it at the time. And the truth of that is not known. But one would think that if they would fight that hard to keep it, that they'd work hard to keep from what's happening, us losing potentially $38 million. That would have been a priority. Doesn't seem to be the case. On Appendix 1, on the findings, on number 8, in travel fees totaling $80,000, there was a trip from South Dakota to Tallahassee. And we're all very limited to what information is available, but that one there stood out to me. Maybe it was legitimate. The $80,000 in per diem or travel expenses seems exorbitant to me. There's rumors. I have no evidence on things, so I won't bring them out. On number 9, on that same findings, Appendix 1, the $865,000 that was spent on 17 new vehicles, which is an average of $51,000 each, seems kind of steep for me. I assume that was the purchase price of the vehicles, not all the equipment that goes in those vehicles. That is high if that's the case. Then it went on to say about the 13 to 30 oil changes, sometimes months back to back. In each month, they have 13 to 30 oil changes with only 18 total vehicles on that vehicle list. That's a standout. That's impossible, in fact. On item number 10, the 122 duplicate vendors with $771,000 in questionable payments. That's a very big concern. And some of these things were not mentioned on the video. Number 11, where Cherry Baker tested to 25 out of 1,962 vendors. 7 of the 25, that's a high percentage, had no business record. 2 of the 7 had no online website. Number 12, Cherry Baker could not confirm the addresses of 17% of the vendors. If I may read a statement then.
Finish your thought. Yes, sir.
Thank you. There was more on the other findings, but my time's up. The BOC, the County Commission chairman, stated that he was not interested in finding who is at fault for the management debacle. But we, the citizens of North Central Florida, not only want those bad actors identified, we want them held accountable for the wrongdoings and not just them making a simple statement that they are responsible. We've seen over and over, I'm fully responsible, nothing's done, just more of the same. It continues. That's not acceptable. Hadn't been, isn't, won't be.
All right, Mr. Clipper, I need you to wrap it up.
All right, I got one sentence. The sheriff's office was printing out checks with signatures and commingling of funds between the sheriff's office and the EOC. Therefore, the sheriff's office needs to be fully investigated and audited for fraud.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Allison Summers, 5021 County Road 795. I have bit my tongue on many occasions on coming to this mic, and today's the day. So I am deeply concerned about what is happening in our community. And my one question I have is this being escalated to other agencies like FDLE, the governor, state's attorneys, state reps, Florida Sheriff's Association? Are we taking this further, or is this just stopping here?
We're going to have discussion on that amongst the board here after public comment. So it's up to the board here, and we got to have that discussion.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else from the public?
Yes, sir. Randy Browning, 8466 135th Drive, Live Oak. My question is probably best addressed to Heather, and that is, since they've changed, or the FEMA is changing the way that funding is going to be allocated now, and it's going to go to Tallahassee, I guess, and they're going to distribute it. Where do we stand? Because we're arguing about these guys, the previous administration and the current administration, how they're going to lobby for funds. Well, this is another curve, if in fact I understand it right. But I'll ask Heather if you guys don't know, or if you do know, and you can speak to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Somebody else want to speak?
We got one right here.
Name and address, please.
Lee McGauley, 10270 Wildwood Circle, Live Oak, Florida. I kind of want to just, I don't want to take up a lot of time because a lot of things have been said tonight. Some I agree with, some I don't, but that's the part of being human, and that's the part of being in a democracy. But what I will ask is that it's my understanding that you guys will take over the EOC as of tonight. That's your wishes, and that's probably how you're going to vote. And then you're going to place the fire chief in charge of, as an interim director of the EOC. Nothing against the chief, I don't know him, but is he qualified, and does he hold those qualifications and those certifications that the auditor spoke of to enable him to have that position? Again, it's not to be negative, it's just to make sure. Obviously, we have two very qualified people running that division now. And I would urge the commissioners to sit back and think, do we want to start over from scratch again? Someone else made the comment that the issues at hand happened under a former director, and it didn't happen under the current director, Ms. Henderson Show. So I would urge you to think hard about reaching out to provide this position to someone else. I realize they work for the sheriff's office. They do not work for you guys. there may be an application process where they have to go through. I don't know that they have an issue with that, but I would urge each and every one of you to take that into consideration. You've got that 90-day window. Once you make this decision tonight, I think that'd be ample time for you to be able to review any applicants and then pick your director at that point. And in closing, I want to say thank you to Sheriff Sam St. John and his entire staff, along with Heather and Gia. I don't know where Suwannee County would have been had we not had them during these hurricanes. We were forced to deal with something that we have never dealt with in Suwannee County ever before. I hope we never have to do it again. I hope we never in front of this board again have to address these type issues. But I want to say thank you. I'm glad you were there. I'm glad for the correlation between all the agencies that work, because we as Suwannee Countyans, we benefited from that. We have benefited from that, not just one person or not just one agency. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Land?
This is your meeting to run. Do you want us to address all these different questions toward the end or whatnot, or do you want us to engage?
You can engage if you'd like, or we can address it at the end. I didn't know how many people were going to speak, so.
Yeah, he just made a couple comments that I would like to address, but I will wait. I'll make notes and address at the end. That way, we don't have I don't want us to turn into a back and forth that would be here all night.
Well, that's kind of what I was trying to avoid.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Board. John Palmisano, 7689 161st Road. Again, thank you for showing that video, showing the behind the scenes. Good questions. Very sharp legal mind. I want to focus on where we go from here. Several people at Cherry Beckert had the same thing to say, and that was focusing on policies and procedures, purchasing policies, emergency management procedures of a very, let's say, very deep type. Yes, it's true, we hadn't had storms like that ever. That's no excuse for not having policies and procedures in place. The thing that occurred to me was one very obvious project that could be termed shovel ready on the books, however you say it, whatever the terminology that they used is, every street that has tree branches hanging over power lines, for instance, what would it take maybe by commission district, and add that up, and now you have a project to allocate funds for, to apply for. And I spent my career in engineering. I've written policies, procedures, SOPs, you name it, from scratch on up. And it's difficult. It takes the right person to do it. I think you've got the talent in this county to do it. I just want to stress that policies and procedures of the right type and the right depth will prepare us for any type of emergency that comes our way. Now that we've been through 3 and 13 months, does that mean it's never going to happen again? I pray that it would never happen again, but we have to be prepared. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Somebody in the back.
Chairman.
I'm real good.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Crystal Owsley, Daddy. You want my P.O. box or my home address?
Either one.
5373 266th Street, Brantford, Florida, 32008. I wasn't coming up here, just came in here to for a few minutes, but some gentleman got up here and was applauding, the Dahlia handlement, and I just want to say I was in the middle of that with Dr. Tracy Daniels passing out food, and several times we did not have the food that was allocated for Suwannee County because it was being hoarded at the, help me here, Coliseum? Is it Coliseum? Is that right? Okay, Coliseum. And when I mentioned, I messaged Sam St. John, and actually, I'm happy to read the text messages from him if you'd like. But I messaged him, and he pushed me over to Tom Warren, who said he and Sheriff spoke, and that I think the correct terminology was some people are too lazy and don't want to get up off their butts and go out there and work to get the food, and we're messing up the economy by passing it out. They were hoarding, I don't know, how many pallets do you think? At least 16 pallets over at the Coliseum, refusing to give it, even though it was not earmarked for them. It was earmarked for our distribution. And I had to go over there with our pickup truck, and a bunch of grown men stood there while I busted my ass loading boxes and pallets from the Coliseum onto our truck and driving it over to Doc Tracy's building so that we could pass it out to the good citizens of the community that I guess were too lazy. So that's the real story. My email address is livinlikelarryfs, LIVINLIKELARRYF as in farm, S as in sanctuary, at gmail.com. Anyone wanting to see those text messages, go ahead and email me. I'm happy to share them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
And I'll get quoted on the out here. That's all right, sir.
Ma'am, when you leave the podium, that'll be enough now.
My name's Edison Snyder, 718 7th Street Southwest. About a month ago, this is a bit tangential, but about a month ago I attended a city council meeting where a line item was drawn and it was all finalizing budget for $500,000, give or take, for a single generator for 2 buildings. Now I know this is city, but some basic napkin math will tell you that a generator for 2 buildings shouldn't cost $500,000. And I think I was thinking of that a lot this meeting, and I think it's important that the public and you guys and everybody involved have a little bit more of a scrutinizing eye when it comes to budget items, because there's always room for improvement. And I'm hearing things like $80,000 trips and whatnot, and that's kind of spooky. So that's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Anybody else? Going once, going twice. That'll end public comment. If y'all don't mind, I'd like to just take a 5-minute recess. Just give me 1 second. Come back to order, resume the meeting. Sheriff, I think it was your turn. Did you want to speak, Sheriff? Where you at? Yes, sir.
Commissioners and Chairman, thanks for this opportunity. First of all, I'd like to express some immense pride that I have in the Suwannee County Sheriff's Office and its unwavering commitment to safeguarding this county, especially during times of crisis. Time and again, our deputies, support staff, and partners have demonstrated in exceptional courage, professionalism, and compassion in the face of hurricanes, floods, and other emergencies. Their readiness to step forward and work long hours to protect our residents under the most challenging conditions at a point of honor for agency and reflects of a deep-rooted dedication to serving this community. If the board decides to assume direct control of emergency management, I fully respect and support that decision. My priority will remain to ensure a smooth transition an orderly transition under the board's directions with no interruptions of the service that our community relies on. Regardless of the decisions, moving forward, our mission remains unchanged to provide the highest level of preparedness, cooperation, and disaster response to people of Suwannee County. We stand ready to continue to support and strengthen our emergency management operations in every capacity when we are called to serve. I've heard a lot of talk and so forth on here, and I was trying to keep up with some of the questions that was asked here, even on the video. A couple that stood out was the like on the I know the one on you. I think you asked Mr. or Commissioner Chairman White is about the pest control thing. What we found out was when Mr. Bolts was transitioning from Baker County to Suwannee County, he used the EOC address as his address while he was making the move. So I think that's where that comes into play, is that, I think the EOC got the bills in his name as if he was paying, or I guess the EOC or someone was paying for his pest control. My understanding, he got some canceled checks. I have not seen them yet, but we'll work on that part there to make sure that this is not some type of fraud. The other part that they say was possible fraud, which actually obviously concerns me, is the former EM director was using asphalt management group for personal use on the school and so forth. On the invoices being paid from the different counts, invoice number 1147 for $55,000 was paid on 7/25, and check number 1171 from a county match account number 22432689 was paid on 2/25 of 25. Check number 1006 was from the LAMP grant. So the reason that there's two different count numbers they don't correspond with the dates and all was from two different accounts. So like I say, that kind of concerned me, because like I say, you don't want, obviously if there's any fraud in the sheriff's office, we want to take care of that and address that and all. There's, and there's one other thing. And there's one, I think one was about the excessive amount of vehicle maintenance. It's all because the sheriff's office. We've got 126 employees, and I'm not sure how many vehicles, probably 100 plus vehicles all. So that's where all the maintenance and all comes in. It's not just the EOC vehicles. It belongs to all the sheriff's offices. Why there's such an absorbent amount there.
So when you say all sheriff's offices, you talking about during the storm while other sheriff's offices were here helping you, or on this maintenance?
No, just
your office.
Yes, sir.
Board, any questions of the sheriff? Sheriff, were you done?
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts on and you expressing that if this board does decide to take the EOC back under its role, that it would be a smooth transition and it would be all good, and we need it to be that way.
Yes.
We need everybody to be on the same page. Fire department, you guys, everybody has a hand in it, and so I was glad to hear that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'm going to, before the board has a chance to go back and forth on it.
No, let him finish.
Good? Okay.
I'm good, bro.
Let me get to it here. the executive summary from the board, or from myself. I, along with the county attorney and the interim county administrator, have reviewed the reports, findings, and recommendations from Cherry Beckert, which were commissioned by this board back in April of 2025. There are two reports, one dealing with grant management and administration, the other a partial financial audit of emergency management and the sheriff's office. Both audits are included in this agenda packet. The audit regarding financial information is lightly redacted to not identify vendors by name, as the vendors may or may not have done something wrong, and there is no need to unnecessarily embarrass or harass innocent parties. To say I'm disappointed with the results of the audit would be a gross misunderstatement. The grant management audit finds that Suwannee County has been excluded from receiving at least $14 million of grants, which had been earmarked for Suwannee County. The financial audit finds that emergency management, sheriff's office commingles funds, may be paying fictitious vendors, and appears to be paying fraudulent invoices out of a slush fund set up by the former emergency management director. This is possible because emergency management has been operating with no policies regarding spending and with little to no oversight. The grant management report succinctly summarizes its findings. This review concludes that funding shortfalls and project delays were not due to outright loss or mismanagement of funds, but rather stem from EOC structural inefficiencies, capacity constraints, and governance weakness. By statute, the responsibilities for emergency management lie exclusively with the county. I am not interested as who is at fault for the management debacle. I do know that the experiment of allowing the EOC to be run by the sheriff's office has been a failure. I also know that the problems outlined in this report will be fixed if the county takes over emergency management, as the county and the board have the tools to hold county employees accountable. I believe it is in the best interest of the county and our citizens for the county to retake control of emergency management. Suwannee County Agreement 2018-11 requires the sheriff to return control of emergency management to the county upon 90 days written notice. The agreement also requires the sheriff to return all emergency management assets and remaining budget. Enclosed is a copy of the Suwannee County Agreement 2018-11 and proposed correspondence to the sheriff terminating the emergency management agreement if approved. This board can use the next 90 days to determine an interim plan for managing emergency management on a temporary basis while putting in place accountable permanent emergency management team, which will be accountable to the county administrator, this board, and ultimately the citizens of Suwannee County. As the county will be taking over emergency management, the county has no legal right to audit or interfere with the sheriff's operations or financial management, as the sheriff is an independently elected official. However, this board should not permit the financial management shortcomings of the sheriff's office to taint the rest of Suwannee County governing team, especially as we seek state monies in upcoming legislative sessions. Further, the board cannot ignore that some of the findings of this audit, if true, and nothing is proven at this time, could be evidence of a crime. I believe that the audit should be sent to offices of Senator Simon, Representative Schoaf, Chief Financial Officer Angolia, as well as the Criminal Division of the Department of Financial Services, who obtained the search warrants on Mills, Gas, and Diesel. FDLE and other appropriate law enforcement agencies for them to follow up as they see fit. By taking over emergency management and forwarding the audits to the appropriate authorities, the county can finally be done with issues relating to the finances of the sheriff's office, except for statutory audit. I'm asking the board the following. Authorize me to execute the enclosed letter terminating Suwannee County Agreement 2018-11 and return control of emergency management to Suwannee County. Authorize county staff to forward copies of the Cherry Beckert to the office of Senator Simon, Representative Schoaf, Chief Financial Officer Angolia, as well as the Criminal Division of the Department of Financial Services, FDLE, and any other appropriate law enforcement agency. So, gentlemen, that's where we are, and I would like to hear your thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
Commissioner Mobley.
I was going back to a comment that was made. Is the fire chief, is he qualified or got the credentials to properly, temporarily management, or on interim, or how we do it till we get somebody hired in that position, if we was to take it over.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to I'll read straight from Florida statute since they just recently made a change to qualifications for emergency managers. But I don't have my glasses, so it's going to be a little hard. No, I got to zoom in. I'm good. All right, the bill created, recently became law, and it creates a minimum education experience training for emergency managers for counties. And basically what it says is you must have at least 50 hours of training in specific fields or a bachelor's degree, which I have. The director must also have 4 years of verifiable experience in comprehensive emergency management services with direct supervisory responsibilities for responding to at least one emergency or disaster, which I have responded to many. And further it goes on and says there's an additional 150 hours of training, comprehensive emergency management training through FEMA, FDEM, things like that. I have probably 85 of the 150 hours, and it gives county emergency management directors have until June 30th of 2026 to meet this criteria. So I'm about 1 week, one class away from finishing all of that. But as we stated, this is an interim process. I would hope we would have a new or our permanent team in place in time before, within the 90 days or the 180 days, but well before June 30th, 2026. So.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Chief.
Appreciate it, Chief.
I do have if Commissioner Mobley's done, I do have a comment. I'm still learning my role over here as not the chairman, so I don't.
It's hard, ain't it?
I mean, I'm having to get adjusted to not.
You used to doing all the talking, so you just blurt it out. I know how it is. So, yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Lynn.
I believe Mr. McCauley made a comment, the same comment that Commissioner Mobley referenced, and no offense to the chief whatsoever, but my only concern of permanently putting EOC underneath any department is I don't want us to end up 5 years, 10 years from now, 3 chiefs from now, 5 chiefs from now, where other boards are saying, look what EM is being done to EM. It's not serving the entire community, everybody, as it should. It's being used as a crutch to prop up this department or that department. So we're in the debacle that we're in now because we put it under our previous board, put it under a different department. So my concern in doing that is I don't want to go that way. I know it could be a temporary type basis, but no offense to you, but I would like to see it be its own standalone at some point. Maybe do a 180 or a 90-day until maybe there's a consulting firm out there that could be engaged, that could cross the T's and dot the I's, and we do it on its own. Out the gate, if this board so chooses, and I'll go ahead and say it, I don't see how we don't take it back. And I've said this before, and this is another comment, toward Mr. McGiley, what he said, as far as who gets the job. Board, I'll say this. We have to be consistent in the policies that we follow. When we hire a fire chief, I don't say I want that guy, he's the chief. I don't say I like this girl, she's my new public works director. We got a guy sitting right over there that's been with the county for 32 plus years that came up from the bottom. He's an interim. He had to go through the process. And we're still not even there yet. He's in the process. So to say that, and there's no disrespect to the two ladies that are there now, I'm not going to call their names, but to the two ladies that are there now, no disrespect to them, but I think that I know that I will lose respect as a commissioner if I start finger pointing and placing people as department heads without other ones having to go through the process. So if the cream rises to the top in the process and whomever those people are, they get the position, The process produced them. So to say that, nah, we want this one, I think we're dictators and we're not going to be respected because we pick and choose when we follow the process. So that's what that would be my position on who gets employment, who doesn't. You got to go through the process. You know, they're there now. I do believe those employees, and I don't know if they're board employees. I believe they're sheriff's office employees. So to say, hey, now you work for us and you got your same positions without going through a process. Now we're hand selecting people when in every other department we got a process. So if the board so chooses to take it back, there has to be a process, in my opinion. I'm just one of four. That's kind of where I'm at on it. And, you know, someone mentioned phase 2, or what else are we going to do with it, or where do we go from here? What are y'all going to do? My take on that is we spent $100,000+ to determine what happened. If I spend another $100,000+ of Suwannee County taxpayer dollars and I figure out what happened under every little pebble, legally speaking, what do you want me to do with that? If I find out that there is fraud or fictitious invoice, or there's hands in the cookie jar and it's documented, whatever that may be.
Send them a check.
No. My point is, as a board, there's folks in Tallahassee that have way deeper pockets than us taking Suwannee County taxpayer dollars and saying, let's spend another $150 to figure out what happened. And what if it produces nothing? You know, there wasn't any fraud. It just looked that way. Maybe that's what it says. Well, we spent another $100,000, $150,000 when we could have fixed a road, or we could have hired a new employee or someone different. So I think that, and I'm kind of covering all your questions, Mr. Chairman, but in my opinion, you have to take EOC. You have to follow the process. And by all means, this board is transparent. Our filing cabinets and computers are open to anybody that wants to look. So with that being said, we have to send it to Tallahassee, and everybody and anybody that wants to see it. We need to send it up to FDLE. We need to send it up to, you know, financial crimes. By all means, our representatives, Shope and Simon, need to see this and know that what we spend our money on, because we ask them all the time to help us get money. So we need to be transparent with them. Like, look, this is what the money we spent showed. We're sharing that with y'all. It's open door policy. Mr. Angolia, if you want to look at anything that we have, here it is. That's where I'm at.
Thank you, Commissioner Land. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Commissioner Hale.
I don't disagree with anything Commissioner Land said. Going through it, jumping all over, but I agree. I think we need to take the vote on it, and then as far as who's going to take it over from on a temporary basis, I think the chief said it. I'm not sure on a full term basis. I think it should be temporary, and I really think it should be standalone. I think it should be. Yeah, come on up, Chief. Sure. But with that all being said, again, you saying like going through the process, Commissioner Land, I think that's something we definitely need to have input from an outside agency that does this and does it on a regular basis and can give us the absolute best information and guidance, how to set this thing up, how it needs to be run, how it needs to be managed, even these other boards and all. I mean, there's consultants out there that can tell us how to do this, and we need to do it because we owe that to every one of you guys out here to do that to the very best.
100%, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And like Commissioner Hale said, I mean, the ESFs, I believe that Ms. Daniels and Mr. Roundtree, all great ideas.
Right.
But like you said, there's got to be consultants, there's got to be other people, outside agencies that can come in and help us set those things up
and
so that it can stand by
itself. And there's a cost to those. I want the public to know there's a cost to those. But obviously we see, I don't mind paying, I hope y'all don't mind paying that cost to get it right and to do it right and to make sure it's done right.
I'd rather spend my $100,000 setting up EOC correctly than kicking over the pebbles, only to say that nobody in Tallahassee cared that I kicked them over. They may care. I hope they care. I think they'll care. But if they don't, then I spent $100,000 and now I still got to set up EOC.
Sorry, I just wanted to get up here to let everybody know and to let you all know too. I truly believe the same thing. I do not believe it should be permanently under one department. It should not be under fire, should not be under law enforcement. It needs to be its own separate thing. So I didn't want anybody to think that I want it under me. So I agree with that. Absolutely, there are plenty of consulting agencies. I know tons of them, working with other ones in my past life. So getting some kind of proposal together, a transition team, a scope of work, a roadmap they can come in, they can do all that for us. So just wanted to.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Anybody else on that?
No, sir. Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask procedural questions.
Who was that?
I was wondering if we're allowed to ask procedural questions.
Sure.
Podium.
You have to come to the podium.
Yeah, sorry. Not with that shirt on.
As we will soon see.
So I just trying to make sure I understand what I think I understand. So you're saying that you give a written notice to the sheriff and he has 90 days to turn EOC back to you, correct?
That's correct.
And so in that 90 days, we can't hire staff for EOC and create a EOC department. We have to have an interim in between as well?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So during our process now, we engage Florida Association of Counties to do our vetting and our a hiring of a new county administrator. Mm-hmm. And we are, 75 days into that? I'm looking at Mandy. Roughly 75 days into that, and we just yesterday, I believe, day before yesterday, got back their letter of recommendation ranking the applicants that applied through them, because they vet them. They're county managers, their county attorneys, they have a committee through the Florida Association of Counties. So I don't know that we could get it done in 90 days. Or 75 days to hire and go through that process, because I don't think that this board's, I know I'm not qualified to hire an EM director. So and we're going to have to go through the process of selecting that consultant. So due to it being government, no ma'am, I don't think we can do it quick.
That makes sense. Now, you're
going to have to bid. I don't know if we got contracts in place to those firms, or we're going to have to publicly advertise what firm getting.
Right.
There's a whole process. 90 days ain't going to do it.
So my other question is, if it goes under the fire chief and he is the director of EM and also the fire chief, we already see where there's lack of staff per the auditors to handle EM. I mean, how is he going to handle being the fire chief and the director at the same time?
No, I think that. I'm sorry, Mr.
No, sir. Go ahead. You're doing a fine job, Commissioner Lane.
Do you want to get back over here?
I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Well, I'd already engaged her, so I
know that's fine. I'm not mad. I promise you.
And I am in your district.
Yeah, that's right.
I am not mad.
So I think if we do it on an interim basis for structural purposes, county structure of the government, the chief is just the person answering the phone. And hopefully that we can engage that consulting firm really quickly. Maybe I'm not going to call anyone by name, but we know multiple of them that do EM type stuff. They could be crossing the T's and dotting the I's and doing the paperwork and sending us a bill to keep the paperwork flowing that needs to be flowed. And by all means, I'm not an EM person, so I don't know how strenuous that is. But no, I don't expect the fire chief and his employees to pick up the EMPG and EMP whatever grants and keep all those stuff documented. No, my idea would be contract that out until we do have permanent staff in place to do the work for ourselves, so to speak.
Mr. So we're going to push out local people and bring in contractors.
That's not what I said. I said during the interim until.
I'm just worried because as a citizen, we had snow here last year, right? We're seeing northern lights in Florida. That's not normal. I don't think our emergencies are going to get less. And I'm not saying anything disrespectful to the fire chief because I don't know him from Adam. But he's got a big old job, I'm sure, as fire chief. And I don't want to see emergency management or the fire department's responsibilities go by the wayside because he is being asked to do too much.
Go ahead.
I agree. It would not be my intention to let that happen. By all means, if this board votes not to take EOC back, we got to do better than what's been being done. So that burden's going to fall on my back.
And there is no there's no possibility of using the current employees in the interim under his direction.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to let you answer that.
That's pretty slick right there.
I mean, it's a valid question under his direction instead of being under the sheriff.
It's going to be under the sheriff for 90 days.
Right.
So they still got a job with the sheriff for 90 days.
Right.
So in the meantime, we're going to put it out for advertisement for that position, how Commissioner Land laid that out, and that's what we're going to do. And she's welcome to apply. They're welcome to apply. We're not excluding anybody. Yep. We're not threatening to fire anybody. It's just going to be a process, just like we have with the county administrator. We are going to put it out for advertisement.
So he's only interim if the advertisement happens and it's not finalized by 90 days.
By 90 days.
Or well, it may be 180. I don't want to sit here and commit to 90 to you because I don't know that it can get done for 90. You know, I mean, I don't want to make a commitment, but for the interim period. Sorry,
correct,
Mr. Chairman.
No, that's correct.
All right. I appreciate y'all.
No, you're doing a fine job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I thought you should have done 12 more months.
And Mr. Chairman, tell me if I'm wrong, but those two individuals that she's referring to, I mean, it's not an EOC position. It's a Suwannee County Sheriff position. Is that correct?
It's the way I understand it.
No.
Heather?
Yep.
My name.
Are you speaking as an EOC director, or are you speaking as a public citizen?
Both.
Just do the name and address.
Okay. Heather Henderson Choi, 617 Ontario Avenue is the EOC. Right now we're grant funded. We are not budgeted by the Sheriff's Office. The only thing the Sheriff's Office does is at the end of the year they will pay the remaining of our salary. However, this year you guys gave us a standalone budget, so they will not be paying any of that. So I know that this is a contentious situation, and it has been since April. I also know that since I took over in July that I have done everything in my power to rewrite all of the wrongs that have been done by my predecessor. There were things that were done that I was not privy to, and I will stand here and take ownership of that. There are things that I wish I could have seen, but at the end of the day, I was not the director. My number one priority for this county has been the community and the citizens of this county. Since taking over, I have made changes. This decision, whichever it falls, and I honestly can work with anybody in this room, and the people in this room can tell you that. I care about the citizens of Suwannee County, and I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And you have a fantastic team that runs it now, who are more than highly qualified, who have all of the qualifications to be the director and co-director for emergency management. I would just ask you to remember that this is not only between EOC and the sheriff and the county, but this is our livelihood, and this is how we pay for our life, and this is how we feed our family. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. With that, I would like to ask for a motion to take back the EOC.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Mr. Attorney.
If you could, it would need to be a motion to execute the letter that was attached to the end.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to execute the letter to give the sheriff 90-day notification that the Board of County Commissioners intends to take back the EOC.
Motion by Commissioner Land as stated. Second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Also, we'll need a motion to send the audits to the state officials and law enforcement.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Land. Second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. We'll also need to ask permission. I will also need to ask for permission for Cherry Beckert to share info, as they are not a public entity, to share the audit and info with state officials and law enforcement at their request.
Motion to that?
Yes, sir.
If I can clarify, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Attorney.
Essentially what that is because Cherry Beckert's not subject to 119, they're a private entity. If law enforcement or an additional state agency wants to pick up the audit ball and run with it, they're going to reach out to Cherry Beckert and say, can you please give us the raw information that you were using? They need our permission as the client to turn that over. So what you're doing is authorizing them to turn it over in the event one of those agencies ask for it. And so that's the reason for doing it. It's to cover, they're asking for basically it's a CYA on their end.
Mr. Chairman, I move to give Cherry Beckert permission to turn over any and all information of Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners to any law enforcement agency that so chooses to ask for it, or
state official.
State official.
Yep.
Motion by Commissioner Land.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Mr. Attorney, does that pretty much take care of all that?
I believe so, yes, sir.
At this time, I want to turn it over to our interim to County Administrator, and just give us a quick overview of what you think that transition looks like.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. You pretty much covered it, in your discussion up here and with the Fire Chief. I would anticipate a temporary under fire rescue. They have the experience in that, and then we'll obviously work very quickly to try and hire a consultant, get some assistance in the transition, get that job posted, encourage the ladies to apply. They have been great to work with, since they have been in the position with the county staff. And then we'll get that EM director hired and build its own standalone department and budget, I would hope, through that budget process this upcoming year. So you pretty much covered it as well. That's what I would think. I would ask, just if this is appropriate time, we probably need permission to advertise for that solicitation. I don't know what that dollar amount is, if it's something we can cover under my authority, or if we need to.
Well, here's the fire chief, the chief has been working with me and Holland. They've already got several contractors, consultants in mind who've already been doing it. The issue here is too, it's not just you need an EM director who can kind of take over a running department. You're also creating. So there's an additional level to the expertise required here. Right. And so we've already got vendors who have already been approved by Department of Management Services. We may be able to piggyback off of one of their vendors. If not, we may have to go through and advertise. I think what Mr. Furry's trying to do is understanding how important it is to move quickly, is to basically ask for permission, perhaps up to a dollar amount, to go ahead and either put it out for bid or do whatever, so that way we can get that consultant in place as quickly as possible. If we can piggyback, we can just piggyback, and if it's within his authority, we're fine. But we're trying to avoid having to wait for another board meeting to come back and do that for this reason, because we know we're under a 90-day clock. Did I state that correctly?
I don't have a clue what something like that would cost. How do we have an idea?
So, yeah, the vendor that Chief has been looking at is given, now we're at one quote, we're going to get at least 3 per policy, but that was at $38,000. Okay. So just ballpark of what we're looking at. No, just the
90 days.
The consultant services to, for the scope of work to get us up and running.
Yeah. I understand. Get a basis.
Yes, sir.
And that would be within your limits, purchasing limits.
But he needs a motion to approve solicitation.
Yeah.
And he's got authority up to 50,000.
So we just need to give direction.
Somebody needs to make
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to give the administrator direction to solicit that. Yeah.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hale, second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Attorney, is there anything else?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for all your hard work on this. I know it's been a long couple of weeks.
Well, it wasn't just mine. Commissioner Land, the reason he's doing more talking tonight than I am is because he's been in it a lot longer than excuse me, ma'am. Let me finish up and I'll let you talk, okay? He had a lot more to do with it than I did, and I just took over this past meeting. No excuses, but Commissioner Land's a pretty sharp guy, so I'm good with what he had to say. Yes, ma'am.
My name, first.
Name and address for the record, please.
Huh?
Name and address for the record.
Cheryl Gilbert, 14868, 225th Road, Live Oak, Florida. My question is, I listen to you guys say, I don't know how that goes. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. How can we ensure that you guys are going to do it properly?
That's I got that guy down there on the end.
It's an honest question.
No, that's an excellent question.
Because I've sat here since it started, and all I've heard from each and every one of you gentlemen, I don't know how that is. I don't know how that's going to look. I don't know what we're going to do. So what do you ensure that this man knows what he's going to do? Or the sheriff, for that matter. I mean, I'm equal. I don't, I'm not biased to either department.
Right, and neither are we.
Mr. Chairman?
I recognize that, because you guys immediately, you don't know.
What do you say I don't know?
How many times have you said I don't know tonight?
I have no idea. I'm going to continue on.
17 times.
Well, I'm glad you're out there counting, but what I heard here was pretty much a pretty good plan. To not put it under the fire department nor under the sheriff's department, but to put it back under the Board of County Commissioners. I just heard us hire a consultant to get that ball rolling and get it lined up and get all the policies, procedures.
Oh, I'm good with policies and procedures. I've done it for many years.
I thought that was a pretty good plan too. Now, what else?
It just blows my mind that each and every one of you are like, I don't know.
What? Well,
I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how we're going to go here.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just, ma'am, as interim administrator, I mean, I work with and oversee 9 or 10 departments. So this is going to be another department under the county. I'm not an expert in solid waste or public works or fire, about an inch deep in all of it. But we're going to hire an expert. The EM director, whoever that is, will be our expert, and they will work with us and teach us. They're going to guide the ship. They're going to be the expert. These guys are saying they don't know about emergency management, but we're going to hire the expert. That's what this plan is.
Okay.
If that helps.
That does help. Because that wasn't made clear at all. All I heard was, I don't know.
And not only, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Commissioner Hale?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So not only are we going to try to hire an expert, an emergency management expert, but we're going to go ahead, what we just authorized him to do is hire a company that specializes in setting up, forming, having those procedures and policies, giving us a basis to go by, giving us rules and regulations to follow. So when we do hire that EM director, a lot of that stuff's already in place, and it's what these people do. It's what they do. So we know we're getting the best of the best to help us get this division or this new department.
So you're saying you're going to have help that's going to be professional, that knows how to build this from the top to the bottom.
That's right.
So we don't get ourselves in this situation again.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what we want to check all the boxes this go around.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're opening that up to the public for them to apply for that position?
We will hold up, yes. Yes, we will.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how many days will that happen? Do you know?
How long do you think it's going to take maybe to...
What was the question?
To put it out for advertisement.
When we start doing advertising for an EM director?
I mean, I don't know why we can't get that out advertised fairly quickly ourselves.
We're going to need the consultant first.
We're going to need a consultant to help us with the job description, so that's not going to happen immediately.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I wasn't
But thank you for caring. No, thank you for caring.
Mean to you.
That's what I want to say.
Don't
Thank you
think
for
that.
caring. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to know why I kept hearing, I don't know, I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know something about something when I don't. So when I say that I don't know, I may not know, but I know who to call that will know, and that's when we're talking about hiring the consultant.
My question was, if you guys didn't know how to do it, why did you take it away from someone that was already working it conveniently?
How could you not?
How could you not?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of policies and procedures that were broken, and I fully get that.
I understand.
There's a lot of money out there that I don't understand either, but I mean, that's not my job to. But as a citizen,
and I'm glad
here, as a resident, we should know where the money is going. We should have someone that is not, already a chief police or, well, nothing against you, Jason, but, it needs to be someone that doesn't have a job in law enforcement or firefighter or EMS or whatever else. They need to have one job, and that one job is to protect our Suwannee County. It shouldn't be a chief and, be the person to take over that.
We agree.
It needs to be one person, one job.
I think this board agrees.
I think we're all in agreement on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. So, just one thing before we wrap up. I'm like Commissioner Land. I don't see how we don't take it back and how we run it as a separate entity as to what it is now, because it needs to work for everybody, not just for the Sheriff's Department, not just for the Fire Department. It needs to work for the City of Live Oak. It needs to work for the town of Brantford. And the only way to do that is it needs to be its own independent department with its own department head. No, we're done speaking. We're done with this. I think the board's doing the right thing, and we've already voted on that. And there's one thing I got to take care of before we finish up here, and I didn't do it at the beginning because I wanted to get through the meeting and finish. But
I thought you forgot.
No, I didn't forget. But for a lot of you that's probably not here when we have meetings, but
use this as a platform.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Denied. They're all FSU fans. But me and the commissioner, me and the attorney have a long-standing bet here. I guess this is the third year, which I'm 2-1 on now. And he lost the bet again. So I got a few things for you.
Here we go.
Game day.
Not really.
Just remember, in year 7, we're going to turn this around. Jamie, absolutely not.
Yes,
I have to put something on the record, don't I?
Yes, you do.
How long is that going to stay there?
I believe there for two, just like it always is, 2 meetings. But I think there's a proclamation you need to make, Attorney.
I thought Commissioner Land adjourned.
I did.
And the speaker.
All right.
Come on, man.
I declare the dominance and superiority of the University of Florida over the Norvell-led Florida State University Seminoles.
Good job. Good job. I'll ask for that motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Hale.
Mr. Chairman, would you make an announcement about Commissioner Perkins on Friday?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Perkins, are they calling that a funeral or a celebration?
I think it's a memorial service.
Memorial service on Friday at 3 o'clock at the Coliseum. And then is it at the Coliseum on Sunday as well? At noon on Sunday is his funeral.
You might let them know. I mean, some of them may not even know.
Well, if you didn't know, Mr. Perkins last week went to be with the Lord. And, we're going to miss him, and he was a great guy. And if you had anything to do with the meeting last night, we all went through and kind of said our goodbyes, and we'll see him on the other side. So,
Amen.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
With that, did I get a?
Yes, you got a motion.
Got it all? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank y'all.